My name is Anna Bennett. I'm 28 years old, and 2 years ago a brutal car crash in Chicago shattered my life, leaving me paralyzed from the waist down in this wheelchair, battling endless agony that spikes with every wrong move. I've clawed my way through rehab, meds, and sheer grit to rebuild, but whispers in my family turned poisonous, accusing me of faking it all for sympathy and handouts. Then came the explosion. At our family's backyard cookout, my sister screamed that I was pretending to be disabled. "Get up, you fraud." She snarled and shoved me viciously out of my chair, sending me crashing to the ground amid cheers and mocking chants from over 50 relatives. Pain exploded through my spine like fire, but I held back screams as the world spun. Suddenly, my doctor, who was there by sheer chance, stepped forward and uttered 3 chilling words that silenced the chaos in an instant. What followed? I sued her for $150,000, and the fallout tore everything apart. If raw tales of betrayal, shocking twists, and unbreakable resilience grip you like this one, smash that like button, subscribe now, and hit notifications to catch every intense moment unfolding. That summer afternoon in our family's backyard in suburban Chicago, the air buzzed with the smell of sizzling burgers and hot dogs on the grill, along with the distant hum of lawn mowers from neighboring houses. It was my cousin's high school graduation cookout, a casual gathering with red plastic cups filled with soda and beer, scattered picnic tables under string lights, and kids running around playing cornhole and frisbee. About 50 relatives and close friends showed up, including extended family from nearby suburbs, all dressed in casual jeans and t-shirts, ready for a relaxed celebration. I wheeled myself over to a shady spot near the grill, trying to join in despite the uneven grass making it tricky to maneuver my chair, but I managed to chat with a few uncles about the Cubs game last night. The setup was typical Midwest style, with a long table loaded with potato salad, coleslaw, chips, and homemade brownies, plus a bounce house for the little ones inflating in the corner. Everyone seemed in high spirits, laughing about old family stories and congratulating my cousin on his diploma with pats on the back and envelopes of cash. My mom, Brenda Greer, hovered around the food table, fussing over the arrangements in her usual way, wearing an apron over her sundress and calling out to people to grab plates before everything got cold. She glanced my way a couple times with that familiar mix of concern and forced cheer, like she always did since my accident, but kept busy refilling bowls. Aunt Haley Matthews, my mom's older sister, arrived fashionably late with a big tray of deviled eggs and immediately took charge of organizing group photos, her loud voice cutting through the chatter as she herded people together. Uncle Jacob Hale, her husband, trailed behind carrying a cooler of ice and set it down near the drinks before pulling out his phone to snap candid shots of the kids. He was the family photographer, always capturing moments whether we wanted him to or not. The atmosphere felt light at first, with classic rock playing from a portable speaker and people mingling in clusters, sharing work updates and vacation plans. I even joined a small game of cards at one table, betting pennies and feeling somewhat normal for once. But then my sister Brianna Spencer showed up, pulling into the driveway in her SUV with her kids in tow, unloading a cooler of drinks and waving hello to everyone. She looked put together as always, in capri pants and a tank top, her hair tied back, but her smile seemed tight when she spotted me. Brianna had been dropping subtle comments lately about how I was milking my situation for too long, questioning why I hadn't tried harder to walk again or get a full-time job. As she hugged Mom and chatted with Aunt Haley, I caught her glancing my way with that skeptical expression, the kind that made my stomach twist. The party continued, with more food being served and toasts raised, but underneath the surface I sensed the undercurrent of judgment, especially from Brianna, who lingered near the grill making small talk but avoiding direct conversation with, "I know me." Uncle Jacob wandered over, filming a quick video of the grill master flipping burgers, and panned around the yard, capturing the lively scene. Aunt Haley rallied a group for a family cheer, her enthusiasm infectious at first, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was building, like storm clouds on a clear day. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the yard, the energy shifted when Brianna finally made her way over to where I sat near the edge of the picnic tables. She carried 2 plates, one piled high with ribs and the other with sides, then set them down on the table in front of me without asking if I wanted any. "Here you go, sis," she said, her tone clipped like she was doing me a favor. I thanked her, but she didn't sit. Instead, she stood there, arms crossed, staring down at my wheelchair with that same look she'd been giving me for months. "You know," she started, loud enough for a few nearby relatives to turn their heads, "it's been 2 years now. 2 full years, and you're still rolling around like this. Don't you think it's time to stop playing the victim card?" The words hit like a slap, and I felt heat rise in my face, but I kept my voice steady, asking what she meant. Brianna didn't hesitate, she leaned in closer, her voice carrying further. Come on, Anna, everyone knows you're exaggerating the pain to keep collecting those checks. If you really wanted to, you could get up and walk, you've just gotten too comfortable with the free ride. Aunt Haley, who had been organizing dessert trays nearby, perked up and walked over, nodding along. She's got a point, honey, Aunt Haley chimed in, placing a hand on Brianna's shoulder. We all love you, but some of us are starting to wonder if the doctors got it wrong or if you're just not pushing yourself hard enough. Uncle Jacob lowered his phone from filming the kids and joined the circle, his expression curious rather than concerned. Yeah, I've seen those stories online about people faking disabilities for benefits, he added casually, like it was common knowledge. Mom Brenda Greer hovered at the edge of the group, twisting a dish towel in her hands, looking torn but saying nothing at first. I tried to explain again that the spinal injury was real with nerve damage that made standing impossible without severe risk, but Brianna cut me off, waving her hand dismissively. Excuses, Anna, that's all it is. Look at you sitting there while the rest of us are working double shifts to make ends meet. If I had your setup, I'd be out there living life, not hiding behind a chair. The group around us grew a little bigger, with a couple cousins drifting over, drawn by the rising voices. One of them, cousin Ethan from the other side of the family, muttered something about attention-seeking under his breath, but loud enough for me to hear. Brianna kept going, her words gaining momentum. You know what we should do? We should test it right here. Prove it to everyone once and for all. Aunt Haley laughed nervously but encouraged it, saying, yeah, let's see if she can stand just for a minute, it wouldn't hurt to try. I felt my heart pounding, the familiar dread creeping in as more eyes turned toward me. Mom finally spoke up softly. Brianna, maybe not now, it's a celebration, but her protest was weak and Brianna ignored it completely. The backyard chatter faded into the background, replaced by this tight circle of family members now focused entirely on me, waiting for my response like it was some kind of family trial. I gripped the arms of my wheelchair, knuckles white, trying to stay calm, but inside everything was unraveling fast. Things escalated quickly when Brianna stepped right up to my wheelchair, her face flushed from the argument and the heat of the afternoon. Without another word, she grabbed the arms of my chair, yanking it forward slightly to get leverage, then shoved with both hands hard enough that the wheels spun backward on the grass. I tumbled out, hitting the ground on my side, the impact jarring through my hips and lower back like a fresh fracture all over again. Pain ripped up my spine in white-hot waves, forcing a sharp gasp out of me, but I bit down on my lip, refusing to give them the satisfaction of a scream. The yard went quiet for a split second, then erupted into scattered laughter and cheers from the circle that had formed around us. Aunt Haley clapped her hands once, shouting, "Come on, stand up, Anna, show us it's fake." While Uncle Jacob kept his phone raised, filming the whole thing, his lens steady as if this was just another family moment worth capturing. A few cousins joined in, chanting, get up, their voices overlapping in a mocking rhythm that echoed off the fence. Someone else yelled, "Prove it already." And more joined the chorus, turning it into a cruel game. I lay there on the cool grass, blades poking into my arms, trying to push myself up on my elbows, but my legs stayed limp, dead weight no matter how hard I willed them to move. The pain throbbed deeper with every heartbeat, radiating into my ribs and making my vision blur at the edges. Brianna stood over me, breathing heavy, her hands still clenched into fists. "See? Nothing. You're just sitting there because you want to be lazy like always." Mom Brenda Greer pushed through the crowd, her face pale, reaching out toward me but stopping short when Brianna shot her a look. "Mom, don't baby her," Brianna snapped. "She needs to hear this." Aunt Haley laughed again, saying, "Exactly, it's for her own good, maybe this will snap her out of it." Uncle Jacob zoomed in closer on his phone, muttering, "This is going viral for sure," as if the humiliation was entertainment. A couple of the younger kids stared wide-eyed, not understanding, while others giggled nervously, following the adult's lead. I managed to roll onto my back, staring up at the blue sky dotted with clouds, forcing slow breaths to keep from passing out from the shock and agony. No one moved to help, not even to offer a hand or check if I was hurt. The circle just watched, waiting for me to magically stand like some kind of miracle they expected. My friend Morgan Pierce, who had been chatting by the drinks table, rushed over, dropping to her knees beside me, her voice shaking. "Anna, oh my God, are you okay?" She tried to lift my shoulders gently, but I winced hard enough that she froze, not wanting to make it worse. The chanting died down a little as people realized I wasn't getting up, but the damage was done, the laughter turning awkward, the energy souring into something uglier. Brianna crossed her arms again, smirking down at me. "Told you. All an act." The words hung in the air, thick and final, while I lay there helpless on the ground, surrounded by the people who were supposed to be my family. Just then, from the far side of the yard near the grill, a voice cut through the lingering awkward silence like a knife. "This is assault. 3 words spoken calm but firm enough to make every head snap in that direction. Dr. Blake Vaughn, my former colleague from the hospital admin days, stepped forward, pushing past a couple of cousins who had frozen mid-laugh. He had been invited as a family friend of Mom's coworker and happened to be standing back observing the whole scene with his arms folded. Now he moved quickly, kneeling beside me, first checking my pulse and neck with practiced efficiency before looking up at the circle of stunned faces. "Everyone back up now," he ordered, his tone leaving no room for argument. Morgan Pierce, still kneeling next to me, helped steady my head while Dr. Blake carefully assessed my position without moving me too much. "Anna, stay still, don't try to sit up yet," he said softly to me, then turned his attention to Brianna, who stood there, mouth open in shock. "You just physically assaulted a person with a documented spinal cord injury in front of witnesses, including children. That's a felony in Illinois." Brianna stammered something about it being a joke, a family test, but Dr. Blake didn't let her finish. He pulled out his phone, opened his photo gallery and held it up for the group to see. "This is Anna's latest MRI from 6 months ago. Clear compression on the lumbar nerves, permanent nerve damage, no question." He swiped to another image, an X-ray showing the hardware from surgery, then to a medical report stamped with dates and signatures. "And this is the official disability determination from the SSA, full approval based on these exact findings. No exaggeration, no faking." The yard had gone completely silent now. Even the kids had stopped playing the bounce house, deflating slowly in the background. Aunt Haley lowered her hands from her hips, looking suddenly uncertain, while Uncle Jacob slowly brought his phone down, the recording still going but his face pale. Mom Brenda Greer finally pushed forward, dropping to her knees on my other side, tears starting as she touched my arm. "Anna, honey, I'm so sorry, I should have stopped this." Dr. Blake kept his voice level, addressing the whole group. "I've treated hundreds of patients with similar injuries. The pain is real, the limitations are real. And what just happened here is criminal. I've already called 911, they're on the way." Brianna's face drained of color. She backed up a step, shaking her head. "I didn't mean to hurt her, it was just to prove." But her words trailed off as the reality sank in. Dr. Blake turned back to me, checking my pupils and asking quiet questions about the pain level on a scale of 1 to 10. I managed 9, pushing 10 through gritted teeth, and he nodded grimly, pulling a small emergency kit from his car nearby since he always carried one as a habit. He gave me something for the immediate spike while keeping pressure off my back. Morgan squeezed my hand, whispering, "Hang in there, help's coming," her voice steady despite the tremble. The circle began to break apart, people stepping back, murmuring apologies or excuses, looking anywhere but at me on the ground. Sirens became audible in the distance, growing closer, and Dr. Blake stood up, facing Brianna directly. "One last time, you crossed a line today and there are consequences. For her sake and yours, I hope you understand that now." Within minutes, sirens cut through the suburban quiet, 2 police cruisers pulling up along the curb, lights flashing but no blaring horns to keep things low-key for the neighborhood. Detective Gavin Knox stepped out first, a tall officer in plain clothes with a notepad already in hand, followed by 2 uniformed officers who scanned the yard, assessing the scene. Dr. Blake Vaughn waved them over, pointing to where I still lay on the grass with Morgan Pierce supporting my upper body to keep pressure off my back. Detective Knox knelt down, asking quick, calm questions. "Ma'am, can you tell me what happened here?" I managed to explain the argument, the shove, the fall, and the pain level still screaming high. He nodded, taking notes, while one officer spoke quietly to Dr. Blake, who handed over his phone showing the MRI images and SSA documents as proof of my disability status. The detective listened without interrupting, then turned to Brianna, who stood a few feet away, arms wrapped tight around herself, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "Ma'am, you're the one who pushed her?" Brianna nodded slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "It was stupid. I didn't think it would hurt her like that. I just wanted to." Detective Knox held up a hand. "Save it for the station, we'll get your full statement there." He read her rights quickly and clearly, the Miranda warning echoing in the now dead-silent backyard, while the uniformed officers cuffed her hands behind her back. Aunt Haley gasped, covering her mouth. Uncle Jacob finally stopped recording, his phone slipping into his pocket like it burned him. Mom Brenda Greer stood frozen, tears streaming down her face, reaching toward Brianna but pulling back when an officer gently guided her sister away to the cruiser. Neighbors from across the street had started gathering at fences, watching the blue lights reflect off windows, but no one approached. Detective Knox asked Morgan for her account next. She recounted exactly what she saw, the shove, the chanting, the refusal to help, describing it in clear detail without exaggeration. He jotted it all down, then turned back to me. "We'll need a formal statement at the hospital once you're checked out. This qualifies as aggravated assault on a person with a disability under state law, possible felony charges." Dr. Blake confirmed he'd accompany me to the ER to document injuries and provide medical testimony if needed. As the officers helped me onto a stretcher, Morgan stayed close, holding my hand the whole time, whispering encouragement while the paramedics checked vitals and stabilized my back. Brianna was placed in the back of one cruiser, her head down, avoiding eye contact with anyone, including Mom, who stood on the grass looking lost. The second cruiser followed the ambulance out, sirens off again to avoid drawing more attention. Back at the house, the party dissolved fast, people packing up food quietly, murmuring apologies or excuses as they left in small groups. Uncle Jacob deleted the video from his phone right there in front of a few relatives, saying, "This isn't something we want out there." But it was too late. Someone else had already captured clips on their phones and posted them online. By the time I reached the ER waiting for scans, the first notifications started buzzing on Morgan's phone, the footage spreading across family group chats, then jumping to local Facebook pages and TikTok with hashtags like #family betrayal and #fake disability exposed. Within hours it hit 3 million views, comments pouring in from strangers calling out the cruelty, supporting my side, and demanding accountability. Detective Knox called later that evening to confirm Brianna had been booked, processed, and released on bail, but with strict conditions: no contact with me and mandatory court appearance. The viral spread turned the private humiliation into public scrutiny, the kind that doesn't fade quickly in a connected world. Morgan drove me home from the hospital, staying the night to help with meds and mobility, making sure I wasn't alone while the online storm grew louder outside. Over the next few months, with Morgan Pierce driving me to appointments and handling paperwork, when my pain flared up, I focused on building the strongest case possible. Attorney Courtney Sutton took my call the day after the incident, meeting me at her downtown Chicago office within the week. She specialized in disability rights and personal injury cases, reviewing Dr. Blake Vaughn's medical files, the police report from Detective Gavin Knox, the witness statements, including Morgan's, and the viral video clips that had been preserved by multiple posters before deletion started. Courtney explained the charges clearly. Brianna faces felony aggravated assault under Illinois law because the victim has a documented disability. The act was intentional and it caused bodily harm. The civil suit we file separately seeks compensatory damages for medical bills, emotional distress, and punitive damages to punish the conduct. We gathered everything: affidavits from Dr. Blake detailing the immediate and long-term risks of the fall, plus my ER records showing bruised ribs and a temporary spike in nerve pain requiring additional therapy. Morgan provided a sworn statement about the chanting and lack of immediate aid, while Detective Knox shared the official incident report confirming no provocation on my part. Courtney filed the civil complaint 2 months later, alleging battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and negligence by the family members who encouraged or failed to stop it. Brianna's attorney tried to argue it was a family prank gone wrong with no intent to cause serious harm, but Courtney countered with the video evidence showing premeditation, the accusations of faking, and the refusal to help. Afterward, the discovery phase moved fast. Depositions were taken. Brianna admitted under oath that she believed I was exaggerating but claimed she never meant real injury. Dr. Blake testified via video link, explaining spinal cord injuries in plain terms, the permanent loss of function, the chronic pain scale, and why a fall like that could worsen degeneration. Morgan's testimony hit hard, describing the crowd's mockery and her own shock at no one stepping in sooner. The case never went to full trial. The defense saw the strength of the evidence, especially with the public scrutiny still simmering online, and settled out of court. We agreed on $150,000 in total, $100,000 in compensatory for medical costs, lost wages during recovery and pain suffering, plus $50,000 in punitive to send a message. Courtney negotiated non-disclosure on some details but insisted the payment acknowledge liability. The check arrived certified 2 weeks after signing. I used part for upgraded adaptive equipment and therapy. The rest went into savings for long-term care. Brianna had to liquidate assets to cover her share. Her attorney fees added up fast, and the criminal side continued separately, with probation hearings looming. Mom Brenda Greer called several times during the process, pleading for me to drop it, saying, "We're family, this will destroy us all," but I let the calls go to voicemail. Aunt Haley and Uncle Jacob sent a joint letter expressing regret but no offer to make amends. The settlement brought some closure financially, but the real weight lifted when Courtney confirmed the funds transferred and the case closed. For the first time since the cookout, I felt a measure of control returning, not just over my body but over the narrative that had been twisted against me. A year after the settlement, the consequences for Brianna Spencer had settled in, deep and permanent. She lost her teaching job at the local middle school the district, citing conduct unbecoming a public educator after parents and colleagues saw the viral clips and raised concerns about her judgment around children. The school board held a hearing where the footage was played, excerpts showing the push, the chanting, and her refusal to back down even after I hit the ground. Brianna's union rep fought it, but the evidence was overwhelming and she was terminated without severance, her teaching license suspended pending review. She tried applying elsewhere, but the story followed her. Online searches turned up the videos and no district wanted the liability. Finances crumbled fast. She sold the SUV to cover legal fees and court costs, then the house went into foreclosure when mortgage payments stopped. Last I heard through distant relatives, she was living in a small apartment on the edge of town sharing with one of her kids while the others stayed with their father. Friends distanced themselves, some unfriending her on social media, others just ghosting calls and texts. The family gatherings she once organized stopped entirely. No more holiday dinners or birthday cookouts with her name on the invite list. Aunt Haley Matthews and Uncle Jacob Hale kept their distance too, sending occasional awkward texts about moving forward but never offering real support or accountability for their roles in egging it on or filming. They avoided mentioning the incident in group chats and changed the subject whenever Mom brought it up. Mom Brenda Greer tried hardest. She showed up at my door twice unannounced with flowers and apologies, tears in her eyes, saying, "I failed you both, I should have protected you." I listened from the doorway but didn't invite her in. The trust was gone. The hesitation during the cookout replayed too many times in my mind. After the second visit, I changed my number and asked Morgan Pierce to screen any family calls. Morgan became my anchor during those months. She helped with grocery runs, physical therapy sessions, and even set up a home office so I could take on freelance admin work from my adapted setup. The chronic pain still flared, especially on bad weather days, but therapy and new meds kept it manageable enough to build a routine. I reconnected with old colleagues from the hospital days, including Dr. Blake Vaughn, who checked in periodically, offering advice on long-term management without ever pushing for reconciliation. Socially, I expanded my circle, joining a local disability support group where people shared real stories, no judgment, just understanding. The online backlash against Brianna faded over time, but the damage lingered. She became a cautionary tale in some disability advocacy threads, people referencing the case when discussing ableism in families. I never responded to those posts or sought more publicity. The settlement was enough closure financially and emotionally. Brianna reached out once through a mutual cousin asking to talk, just to explain, but I declined. The message went unanswered. The family fractures remained wide open. No holiday cards, no check-ins, no pretense of normalcy. I focused on what I could control: my health, my independence, my peace, and for the first time in years that felt like enough without needing their approval or forgiveness. 2 years later, looking back from my new apartment in a quieter part of Chicago, the cookout feels like a distant scar that still aches on rainy days but no longer controls my life. I cut off all contact completely: no calls, no texts, no holiday cards, no exceptions. Brianna Spencer faded from my world. Her attempts to reach out stopped after the first year, and I never responded. The family followed suit. Mom Brenda Greer eventually stopped trying. Aunt Haley Matthews and Uncle Jacob Hale disappeared into their own routines, and the extended relatives scattered like the party itself dissolved that afternoon. No reunions, no updates, no pretense of mending what was broken beyond repair. Brianna's life unraveled further. The criminal case ended with probation, community service, and a permanent record that blocked her from teaching or any role involving kids. She worked odd jobs sporadically, but the stigma clung. The online videos resurfaced occasionally in disability forums as examples of ableism gone wrong. She lived modestly isolated from the support network she once took for granted. I didn't follow her story out of spite, just awareness that actions have lasting weight. On my side, the settlement covered adaptive upgrades, a reliable van with hand controls, and ongoing therapy that kept the pain from dominating every day. I built a freelance consulting business from home, specializing in accessibility audits for small offices, the work meaningful and flexible around my needs. Morgan Pierce remained my closest friend. We met weekly for coffee or walks in the park, her presence a steady reminder that real support doesn't require blood ties. I joined more advocacy groups, speaking at local events about invisible disabilities and family betrayal, sharing my experience without naming specifics to protect privacy but emphasizing the message. Assumptions kill empathy, and one moment of cruelty can shatter decades of connection. The biggest lesson hit hardest in quiet moments. People with disabilities aren't props for family tests or burdens to prove wrong. When doubt turns to action, it destroys trust irreparably, and the fallout ripples far beyond the person pushed down. In America, where independence is prized and laws protect vulnerable groups, the real cost isn't always money, it's the permanent loss of belonging. I learned to choose my circle carefully, to value those who lift instead of shove, and to stand firm even from a seated position. No forgiveness was offered because none was earned, and that's okay. Peace came from walking away, not from forcing reconciliation. Life moved forward stronger, quieter, and entirely on my own terms.